Hello everyone, welcome to our tutorial on how to build a macrame vertical dye garden. This is the first of a three-part series that we're producing with Recology San Francisco that examines the intersection between gardening, food, fashion, and waste.
My name is Kaylin. I'm a gardener and environmental educator, and I'm currently a news fellow for Stone Pure Press.
And I'm Layla. I'm an artist and fashion designer, and I'm Recology San Francisco's 2020 Student Artist in Resident.
So just a little bit about us. Me and Layla met in college freshman year at UC Berkeley, and we've just been friends ever since. At first we realized our two fields are totally different. Layla is an artist, a fashion designer, and I'm into food systems, farming, and sustainability. But through the course of our friendship, we soon realized that our two fields really do intersect and intertwine quite a bit.
Yeah, and natural dyeing is just one of the many ways that agriculture and fashion are related to one another, which is why we're so excited to collaborate on this project and share what we know with you guys.
So just before we get started, we want to acknowledge that we are growing our plants on Ohlone land. This is very important for us, especially since we are using plants used by indigenous cultures for thousands of years. So I really encourage you guys, wherever you are, to research the land you're occupying, especially if you're interested in using these plants.
We also wanted to take a second to talk about why things like this DIY project relate to global conversations about sustainability and sustainability in our respective fields. So I'm sure, as a lot of you know, the fashion industry is one of the most polluting industries in the world. It's number 3, and a lot of the pollution that we see within that system comes from the growing, processing, and dyeing of textiles. Cotton is one of the most popular textiles used in the fashion industry. It can be found in almost all of the clothing that's commercially available. However, cotton crops use 1/4 of the world's pesticides. And this is just one issue that examines how sustainable solutions really need multidisciplinary, collaborative engagement to really find a workable solution.
Yeah, so environmentalism just doesn't have to be about science. We really just want to encourage everyone to think outside the box and use their creativity when finding solutions to climate change. And the world has definitely just been so crazy lately, and we really just want to do this with you guys so we can all have fun and encourage you to think about your food, waste, and fashion going forward.
Yeah, so let's get started.
This tutorial is great for anyone who might be living in a small space, such as an apartment, or maybe you only have a balcony or a small patio to work with, such as ourselves. We are working with a small patio. And an important thing to note is that these plants do require full sunshine. So yeah, Layla will go ahead and talk to you about our dimensions of our patio.
Yeah, so the first thing that you need to do is measure the space that you're working with. Our patio is 11 feet and 1 inches wide and 7 feet and 2 inches tall. So we will be making 4 vertical columns with 3 pots on them each, and we will also be using several 5-gallon buckets to grow our sunflowers. To complete this tutorial, you will need a 1/4 inch thick rope. The length of rope that you will need will depend on the dimensions of your space. Because our space was 7 feet tall, we used 400 feet of rope to make our 4 vertical columns for our dye garden. You will also need a cutting utensil to cut the lengths of rope that you'll need. A knife, box cutter, or scissors all work. Please make sure that you're being careful when you use them. You will also need masking tape to tape off the ends of your rope as you tie the knots to make it easier to maneuver. You will also need a measuring tape to measure the dimensions of your space and the lengths of rope that you will cut. We chose to grow chrysanthemums, marigold, and Hopi sunflowers in our vertical dye garden. The chrysanthemum will produce a pale yellow dye, the marigolds a rich yellow, and the Hopi sunflowers a range of colors all the way to black.
We are going to need 6 8-inch pots, 6 10-inch pots, 5 5-gallon buckets.
You will also need a spade, soil, and your favorite compost. We're using Recology's compost, which is super rich, dark, and lovely. Recology compost is special because it takes the 700 tons of yard waste and food scraps collected by the residents of San Francisco and turns it into rich, dark compost. The compost is sold to California farms and vineyards, many of whom vend their products back to the residents of San Francisco, creating a closed loop. After you've measured your space, you are going to need to cut 4 lengths of rope that are 3.5 times the height of your space. Because we're working with a space that's approximately 7 feet tall, we've cut 4 lengths of rope that are 25 feet each. Once you've cut all of your rope, lay them together, and find the middle. Once you've done that, tie a knot.
So once you've tied your knot, find a hook to hang it up, just like we've done here, and begin rolling up the ends of the ropes.
At the end, every single rope will be a little bundle like this at the end. It's going to make it easier for us to maneuver the rope as we move down this piece, but as we go you can also unravel them if it gets easier for you to tie the knots at the end. You're going to want to divide your ropes into 4 sections of 2 ropes each to begin. Now we're going to make a net pattern combining 2 threads from separate knots. Use your pot as a reference to see where you want your next knot to be. Account for the wide mouth of your pot by adding an extra inch or 2 at the bottom. Cool. Now you have your mesh and you want to insert your pot inside of it so that we can tie the bottom knot. Try and position your first knots along the lip of the pot and your bottom knots around the bottom. That's your first pot. Repeat what you did for your first pot for your second pot. Make sure you leave room at the top for your plant to grow. Make the net for your next pot by taking 2 strands from different knots and tying them together.
So I'm going to show you guys how to transplant. You're going to want about 2/3 soil and 1/3 compost for your ratio of soil to compost. So we're starting off with about half of a pot worth of soil. We're going to plant the marigolds. So yeah, just kind of, they come out really easily. Just kind of pop it out like that and boom. And you want the compost to come up to the base of the plant. Our plant baby is nice and potted. For the Hopi sunflower seeds, for each 5-gallon bucket, you're going to want to plant 2 to 3 seeds. Sunflowers need a lot of space and room to grow, so you don't want to overcrowd the pot. And you can also start your sunflower seeds indoors too. So we're in a warm place, so we're going to start them outside. But if you live in a colder area, it might be better just to start them indoors until they sprout. Basically, for daily care, you're going to water your plants probably every day just to get them started. When you first transplant your plants, they're going to be really vulnerable. So give them a good amount of water in the morning every day. So some other plants you could use for this vertical dye garden is Coreopsis, Black-Eyed Susan, and Black Irises.
Yeah, so in order to take your plants and turn them into natural dyes, you're gonna wanna wait till they fully flower, like these plants here. You'll harvest the flowers themselves, lay them out to dry, and once they're dry, you can turn them into natural dyes. In our next video, we'll be showing you a couple different ways to use plants as natural dyes.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you learned something. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did. We hope you did too.